Hello and welcome. We are back. It's Transform Your Relationships Live. I'm Laura Rubenstein, and I'm here with the awesome and wonderful Rhoberta Shaler, Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. How are you?
As well as can be expected. It's spring,
It is
and
spring,
all
and
things are
things are blooming. Allergies are soaring. Birds are chirping. We've got it all going on, and we thought we'd address the season today and talk about spring cleaning and that renewal.
Yeah, I think it's an important thing to think about. One of my favorite times in the year is back to school. I have a back to school mentality. That's when you get everything organized, right? But spring is when you get everything clean. So I think that these are the times for looking at how do we actually clean? What do we clean? We clean ourselves from the inside out, from the outside in. Do we clean our office? We clean our bedroom. We clean our bathroom closets. What is it that gives us that feeling of deeply taking care of the things that are underneath, not just the things that show?
Yeah, and it seems like every time a season hits, the New Year's we had, like you said, the school season starts. The New Year's we have the resolutions and setting goals, and now we want to really get things cleaned up and ready for the next quarter that we're already into. But it's never too late. You can make your own season and of renewal and clarity. It feels like it's a great time to get clear. The beginning of the year, whatever you had set your sights on is kind of in place or not, and it's time to check in and set your sights for the next whatever balance of the year, shall we say.
hmm I always think about it's time to get in the corners and the shadows and get some light there. Get some light, whether that's metaphoric light or that's cleaning and getting actually the dirt out, or it's just I need to sweep this out. I need to start fresh. So I think it's a great time for that. And we're today, I hope everyone will feel encouraged to not see it as that huge onerous job that, oh, I can't do it and it's too much and all, but to know that you can do this kind of thing in small increments. Like you can say, I will do half an hour a day. I once had a client that I never met, someone who actually was on the phone. She didn't even want to do video, and after I'd known her for a little bit, I said, I just want to make a guess. I said, my guess is that you're quite overweight, that you have piles of things, maybe even a trail that you've carved out from your front door to the microwave to your chair to watch television, and that you really don't feel good in your own space. And she started to cry. And she said, that's exactly what's going on. She said, I weigh 400 pounds. I only cook with the microwave. I have clutter everywhere, piles everywhere, and I just can't face it. So what we did was we made a square yard rule. So from the top of her head down to the floor, that high up on the walls, she had to do 1 square foot a day, and the rule was that you have to put things in their final resting place. You can't put them somewhere that needs moving again. And she got so motivated after doing a square yard a day that after 2 weeks she just went through and did everything. And so sometimes it's really wise when something seems daunting and too big to just break it down into doable chunks. I call those TTDCs. TTDCs. And I encourage everybody to do that. I have a little book called Prevent Free Fall, Pack Your Own Parachute. And I talk about TTDCs in there, and what those are teeny tiny doable chunks.
Ooh, I like that. Teeny tiny doable chunks. It makes it so it's like that eating an elephant one bite at a time, but it's like what's teeny? We take the pressure off. We put the small word in there instead of the big word, and um, clutter is a great metaphor for life. I think it's a reflection of what's going on inside sometimes, and sometimes I find myself just needing to take a moment and clear the desk. It could just be or clear the sink. Sometimes just clearing the sink is like so liberating, so energizing. It's like a reset. So we're not, our spring cleaning is one teeny tiny, what'd you say, doable action? Teeny or doable
Chunk,
chunk,
chunk.
a little chunk.
Yeah,
In
and it
marketing,
works.
and in marketing, if I may, when you think about your marketing, just to add a little business here, uh, think about giving people content in what I call snackable sizes. A lot of people write these prolific, in-depth things that are totally overwhelming to your market. But if you give them a little snackable or a teeny tiny snackable chunk, doable, actionable chunk, then you are also not overloading somebody else.
Yeah. And you're not overloading yourself so that you won't want to go to bed and pull the covers over your head. And we tend to walk away from those things. Isn't it interesting that when we have a project that's due and there's a deadline, all of a sudden we get vitally interested to know if there really are 1,000 staples in that little box? Just let me focus on something that's a distraction. And sometimes a distraction is that something seems too large to approach. So when we're thinking about spring cleaning, spring clutter removal, spring freshness and newness and renewal, let's think about doing it in pieces that actually make it happen. It's
Hmm.
all progress. So don't beat yourself up because you didn't get it all done in 6.5 days, whatever you said you would do. Just keep making progress. Don't be defeated by it. So a couple of the ways that we take care of ourselves in the spring cleaning is many people will look at their food sources and say, okay, am I getting enough fresh food? What's coming into the markets now? Things are beginning to grow. We're very fortunate here in California that we have interesting and great organic fresh food all the time. But things come into season and it's exciting to go and see. So maybe I need to have a little look to see, am I getting enough vegetables so that I'm actually clearing out things that are getting stuck in my body? Or saging or using essential oils and cleaning the corners of your house, just making sure that you've moved all the energy. Or maybe you have a relationship that's kind of stuck. Maybe it needs to have some light shone on it and said, okay, why am I not coming to grips with what's bothering me about this? And those are kinds of clutter too.
Yeah, and acknowledging each of those areas and then choosing a tiny, doable chunk from it. And I love what you said. I love using my essential oils for cleaning inside and out, and also clarity, mental clarity, because like a peppermint oil can be used to just reset. The power of smell is so amazing. You smell that peppermint, it's like clarity. It helps you focus, especially if you have a lot to get done or you just are feeling like all over the place. You got to study something, you got to learn something. Peppermint is excellent. So it is finals time for a lot of students. So try some peppermint to help you, really get that information into your brain. And then to clean, my favorite is lemon essential oil. Lemon essential oil is a great grease cutter, and it gets the sticky stuff off of floors and labels, and just and it cuts grease like crazy. So get yourself some lemon. Let's see if I have a lemon I can show you. Yeah, here's some lemon. I use doTERRA oils, and it's just so. By the way, speaking of mental states and getting ready to feel like cleaning, smell some lemon. You feel like, oh, it's clean, it's fruity, it's uplifting. It's like, yes, I can do this, right? So supporting yourself with the power of smell, it's amazing. if you give yourself the aromas that are going to trigger that positive emotion, how much more doable things seem, how much more hopeful, how much more confident you feel. They, when you smell a lavender, for example, and you want to get some rest, it's more relaxing. It's like, I'm at peace. So if you're feeling anxious or tight muscles, you want to relax them naturally, smell some lavender, or put some there's also great ones for improving circulation and muscles, helping your muscles relax as well. That wouldn't necessarily be lavender, although it's nice for calming the whole nervous system. But the muscles, we use things like white fur, we talked about last night on our Women Essential Entrepreneurs. So I think having a support toolkit alongside of you from a sense you don't necessarily consider but can be a very powerful asset is huge. So I just mentioned 3 or 4: lavender, lemon, peppermint. That's a great trio to stock up to help you clean and to help you get ready to clean and to feel motivated to do it.
Yeah, and I think smell is one of the things that is really associated with memory. We smell something and we remember somebody baked something or walking into somebody's house, or we have a very visceral memory because it's not attached to language. And language is something we don't really have until we're 4 years old or 5 years old, even meaningful language. So we have this trigger that happens with smells. And when we purposefully take care of ourselves using some scents or fragrances or essential oils, then we're saying to ourselves, I'm going to give myself the best experiences. So I think those are important things. And on a more metaphoric level, what about the relationships that are either being taken for granted or feeling a bit stuck? I was working with a couple the other day, and I said, "Why are you here?" And they said, "Well, it's just like seems like nothing's kind of happening." And I said, "So are you taking each other for granted?" "Oh yeah, that was old news." I said, "But why are you not feeling any freshness, any newness?" And of course, what happened was when we really looked at the amount of time they were spending together, that wasn't just passing each other or how are you doing or what do you need, but actually sat down and said, I see you and I need to know how you are. Now, you know that in my book, Kaizen for Couples, I talk about a really important tool, which is the personal weather report, to know how to go inside and know in any moment what you think, feel, need, and want, and be able to express that. And always the caveat, you never talk about another person, so you don't use the word you. You're just talking about yourself. I feel this way. I think this. I want this. I need this. When you get in touch with that and you're thinking about this newness and you're thinking about your relationship, do you really express that? Like this wonderful video came my way on Facebook the other day, and it was a diver, and he was deep in the ocean with 2 gray seals. And one of them kept coming up and putting his face on the diver's mask. And the diver was trying to figure out what the animal wanted. And so the diver put his hands out in front of him, and the seal grabbed his hand and put it on the seal's chest. And what he wanted was to cuddle and to have him scratch his belly. And so the diver did that. And so I shared that with people to say, I hope you feel comfortable enough with who you are and who you're with that you feel free to ask for what you need and want. Because even in that circumstance, the seal felt safe enough to have a diver that he'd never met before touching him and wanted to be touched. And sometimes we just lose track of that. We just get so busy that we're surfing through life and we don't dive. And so we don't know that we have some things we might need or things that we really want, but we haven't expressed that. So spring is a good time to say, is there something that I could tell my partner that would help them meet my needs? Because none of us are in relationship with mind readers. And, we play that old thing that we talked about one day on the show, Laura, where I just get so annoyed when I hear the phrase, if you really loved me, you'd know what I want. That is
Ah!
such trash, such trash, such rubbish. None are in relationship with mind readers, whether that's our boss or our partner or our mother. They're not mind readers. So my job is to speak so that I can say this is what I'd like. And then if I'm an emotional grown up, I have the capacity to hear yes or no. And then I learn about the person that I'm in relationship with. But if the only answer is for you to do what I want you to do, the fight could be on and the power struggle could be on. So as in spring, it's a good idea to say, where do I have any dark corners? Do I have any cobwebs? Do I have any shadows? And is it just all dull and really needing shining in our relationship? Oh, I lost your sound.
You know, those silent expectations are really relationship diffusers. They're like extinguishers in a sense. It takes the life and vitality out of a relationship if you expect somebody to know what you want. It's really saying, I'm not willing to communicate. You're that person who's withholding that information is causing some toxicity. And then, you know, there's probably a power game going on with a lot of toxicity, but to take it in charge of your own spring cleaning, state what you need. I love that example of the diver. So being willing to listen in a way, or being approached by a being that is sharing what it wants and needs, and it's perfectly okay to want and need, even if somebody doesn't recognize it straight away. It's quite honoring to let people know what you're
Well,
thinking
it shows
and
that you
what.
feel safe with that person when you ask. Like
Yeah.
I'm according that I feel safe. I trust you with my question. I'm not expecting you to say absolutely yes or no, but I'm trusting you with my question and that you will honor it and treat the question with respect.
Right. And if you're withholding and you're wanting somebody else to come forth, what is it saying about yourself? What is it saying? If you don't trust that person, then what is there to do? If you really don't feel safe and the only way to be in that relationship is to stay quiet, there's something going on that does need some addressing. And that's where professional help is always useful. And I just want to let everybody know where you can get that professional help from Rhoberta at forrelationshiphelp.com. Yay, I got it right here. forrelationshiphelp.com. And of course, if you want to learn more about what I do, hypnosis and or essential oils and or the business marketing, Transform Today is a good starting place. I put the link to the essential oil webpage that I have, Women Essential Entrepreneurs, down below in the comments. And if you have questions, I am monitoring. So if you see me looking away, it's because I'm looking to see if anybody has questions or comments in Facebook. We're at Transform Your Relationships Live on Facebook, in case you're wondering. And is there anything else you wanted to mention about what you offer on your site?
Well, the important thing to know is that I have people who come to see me from all over the world. I see everybody by video. So don't let geography be a detriment. If what you're hearing is something you'd like help with, know that we can talk. And there are a few places on earth that make it a little bit difficult because of time zones, but know that we can. We can talk. We can find a time to be together. And that's worthwhile and important. And also, of course, if you go to forrelationshiphelp.com, you'll see in the navigation bar, it says get help from Dr. Shaler. And there are all the different ways that you can get help.
We have resources galore, and you have books and you have free consults and you have blogs and you have downloads and checklists and reports on how to navigate difficult people. I mean, whoever's watching this, it's like forrelationshiphelp.com is your one-stop shop for getting clear, getting your relationships in gear and cleaned out, in a sense of getting them humming. starting to change patterns. And, I love the energy of the season because there's so much more freedom to move. It's not as cold. There's more to do outside. There's longer light out during the day. So let's take advantage of it. I'd love to hear if anybody's sharing what they're excited about for spring. Feel free to put that in the chat box. We're excited for renewal here, and I'm excited to use the essential oils in new ways and also get that cleaning done. I'm going to do that, as we said at the beginning, tiny, teeny tiny,
Doable chunks.
doable. That's very key. Doable chunks.
Yeah. If you can't clean a whole bathroom, you can clean the mirror and you can come back and clean the sink. Just don't
Yes.
think that, how people avoid tasks because they say, well, I don't have time to do it all, or I don't have time to do it thoroughly, so I'm not going to start.
Yeah.
That's our life. So just
That's
start. Let's start.
Yeah. Just start. And I love that. Even because it'll seem so much more doable after you've done a little bit of it. Even if you come back to it later, it's like, oh, I don't have to do the whole thing. I can do now the toilet bowl. I can do now the floor. Yeah, I like that a
Well, then
lot.
you can be like me today and just have the joy of having a new cleaning woman who's in my house somewhere, making it all beautiful, all in the same day.
Oh, what? We don't have to do it all ourselves? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's right. And it's important to have, when you're doing the spring cleaning in your mind and in your life, is to know, what are your priorities? What's your gift to the world? Where do you want to spend your time? It's much more important for me to be here with you and all the folks, Laura, than it is for me to be cleaning the toilet. And so if I want to be giving my unique contribution to the world, it is not about cleaning the toilet. So better that I should have someone help me with that, and then I can be here. And I always think that's the most exciting thing, when something's getting done and I'm not doing it. Like, whoa, that's great. That when I step out of my office has already been cleaned. So when I step out of this office, I'll step into whoa, everything's clean. And sometimes those are the best gifts to give yourself, is to get some help. Not only what Laura was saying earlier about get some relationship help, because we all need that. If you think about that for a moment, I'll just give you my metaphor. You're a goldfish and you can see another goldfish, but you can't see the water and you can't see the bowl. What a person like me can do is to see two goldfish and the water and the bowl, and that's perspective. That's why we need help with our relationships. But maybe we need help in other ways. Maybe you have an energy leak that every time you look at your garden, you say, oh, I've got to do something about that. Or you look at your kitchen counter and it's become an archaeological dig. And it becomes like that moment when you say, oh, I just can't face it. I'm such a loser. Why don't I keep things tidy? And every time it's an energy leak for you, get rid of those energy leaks. Either do them yourself, because they never take as much time as you think they're going to take, or get someone to help you. One of my good friends came over the other day. I've been sick for quite a long time, and the mail was piling up, and I couldn't face it. And she came over and we just sat there. It took an hour and 15 minutes. She did all the mail, right? It
Done.
was just like,
Wonderful.
get some help. Go help somebody do something. It doesn't take that long. And again, that's asking for what you need and want. Now, it's lovely because I have good friends who say, is there something I can do to help? Sometimes we have people in our lives who just want us to do all the giving and they do want to do all the taking. So notice those people too, and back off. Back off. Healthy relationships are equal, reciprocal, and mutual. And that may not be, it's certainly not tit for tat and keeping, generally equal, reciprocal, and mutual. And if you're not in a relationship with anybody that is that way, take note of that. Write that on your spring cleaning list. Can I do anything to fix this? Have I asked for what I needed and wanted? Or is this person just so self-absorbed that all they think about is their problems? mean, I was in the hospital 10 days ago, and honestly, I was talking to a friend who called me, and I'm in the hospital, and she's telling me how awful life is because she has a cold. And and finally, like, I just gave up, like, oh, that's too bad. You got a cold. That's miserable. What are you doing to take care of yourself? Wrapped the conversation up and went, whoa. you know, I'm talking about big things in my life, and you have a cold. But now I learned something about you, that you can't get outside yourself long enough to really understand that discrepancy. That when you're feeling awful and you have a cold, then that's your whole world, and I understand that. But at that moment, and I don't love her any less for it, but at that moment, like, I needed something else. That was not what I needed to be taking care of someone with a cold, right? So notice these things. It's not like you're making people wrong. You're noticing. Like, do I go to that person for something that they can give me and want to give me? Or do I go to that person for something they can't give me and won't give me? I sit in judgment and I feel badly because they won't take care of me, and I stamp my little foot. No, wake up. Do a little spring cleaning and say, okay, really value that person for all these things. But when she's sick, her world contracts, and she doesn't have any largesse. She doesn't have any space for anybody else. Okay, got it, right? And so it's important for us to note.
Yeah. I love when we can discern who people are and not judge them. Like, just say, okay, I get that, and that's them, and honor that, and know that if that doesn't work in this particular situation, it doesn't work, and we accept it, and we make decisions accordingly instead of getting angry at that person, not even being able to explain. I mean, there's always the opportunity to ask for a request or get clarification. As long as we're coming from a space of allowing and accepting that person to be exactly who they are and being very clear on what we need. So if you need rest and not to take care of somebody, then you just say, I need to rest now. Sorry you're feeling bad.
Yeah,
Goodbye. Right?
exactly. It was information about her in that moment, not about her as a person forever, but in that moment, you just take in that information. And it's not like black or white thinking or all or nothing thinking, well, if she's like that, then I'm going to write her off. No, like, in that moment, I wanted to be understood. She wanted to be understood. I understood what was going on for her. She didn't understand what was going on for me. So I just took care of it and curtailed it. But it didn't affect our relationship. It's just information. Um, we were doing a job in New York. We were acting general managers of a company, and the owner of the company, oh my goodness, if a person in the company made a complaint, she was just like spinning in the wind. If an employee said, well, I don't like the way you spoke to me, I mean, she would come running and say, oh, what did I do? Isn't that awful? Did I offend her? Blah, blah, blah. And I spent most of my time for the first 3 weeks there saying, it's just information. You don't have to do anything with it. But we don't take it as just information about that person and where they're at. We want them to live up to our expectations. We want them to do what we want them to do. We want them to understand us at the level we want them to understand us. And then we tend to do one of two things. We either make them wrong for not behaving the way we want them to, or we try and say, in case of my friend, if I were that kind of person, I would have said, well, I'm in the hospital, and it's serious, and we're talking about your cold. Get a grip, girl. Well, that's not the way it's going to go if you're my friend, right? So we have to understand that we can just take in information. Did you know that not every question you're asked needs to be answered? It's a choice to answer a question.
Hmm.
Many people feel like, oh, well, somebody asked me a question, I've got to answer that. One of the most effective things I've ever taught anybody to do was, when somebody asked a question, was a particular question that bothered her a lot, that she would say this. Oh, isn't that interesting? I have no idea why that would be of interest to you. And then keep on, because because then the question got negated, right? I mean, the person's not going to ask it again after that. And the conversation just went on, and she felt more powerful. So it's important for us to know that questions don't need answers.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes that's very frustrating to the person asking. Just thinking back on an unanswerable question I asked somebody. Sometimes your questions are unanswerable. Beautiful.
That's
Well, we've gone through a whole slew of great content from managing relationships and communication and cleaning up your communication to choosing to communicate and then cleaning your surroundings to reflect what you're cleaning out inside and outside. Um, this has been like just very rich. And, I want to encourage people, invite people to stay in touch with us. We will be back for another show. Actually, you'll be back for another show in 2 weeks. And so in the meantime, you can reach Rhoberta at forrelationshiphelp.com. You can reach myself at transformtoday.com. Can we see these? And we welcome your questions in between at Transform Your Relationships Live. Feel free to comment on our videos, ask questions, be in touch. What else, Rhoberta?
Well, remember that Transform Your Relationships Live is a page on Facebook. So you have to go there, and that's where we'll answer your questions. So it's not a URL, it's a page on Facebook. So facebook.com/Transform Your Relationships Live. That'll get you, and we check in, and you can go back and you can hear all our shows. And every now and again we have something really valuable. So go and check it out.
Like
That
all
might
the
be a
time.
lucky day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here on Facebook,
Yeah.
it's Transform Your Relationships Live. And if you do go to the URL transformyourrelationships.com, that takes you right back to this page. So that's the URL we have. That's
Yeah,
cool.
we'd love to hear from you. And do invite your friends to come along and have a look at what's there, because there's so many shows now. We've been doing this for more than a year, and there's so much there that you can find value from and connect with us again. So until 2 weeks from now, when I'll be here and Laura will be in Spain or Italy or somewhere, and I will be answering your questions and talking about something brand new and a way to transform your relationships.
Have a great week. Bye for now.
Bye bye.